Let me start off with a little background on Dreamworks. The company was created in response to a rift that split various people at Disney. They wanted to start a company that focused on live action and animation, so they brought on big names, people like Steven Spielberg. Over the years, it evolved into a more CGI-focused company, but it did create some early big titles. I reviewed Invasion America as one of their first properties. They still refuse to release it for some reason. This rivalry extended into Pixar when Pixar had their first big movie, Toy Story. Dreamworks also wanted to become the next big thing in CG animation, which started the feud between Antz and the second film of Pixar's, A Bug's Life. Basically, Pixar accused Dreamworks of copying their idea of A Bug's Life with the Antz film, and this was before either movie was finished. Today, you can watch both films with exception of certain things like the main character being an ant and him going on a journey with a princess. The stories are different. Antz is more realistic focused, even though both movies are really ridiculous. In Antz, they make a wrecking ball out of their bodies for one scene, versus the more of a fantastical setting like in A Bug's Life and the whole circus stuff. Regardless, Antz got buried under A Bug's Life. It was the more successful movie. But does that mean Antz is a bad film just because it didn't have Pixar behind it? I'll admit I like Bug's story more, but I don't hate Antz at all. It's still fun and exciting. I do have issues. There's problems with the bad guy plot, but I'm jumping the gun. The movie focuses on a depressed worker ant named Z. That's why it's called Antz. He's having problems in his life, so it all starts off with him talking to a psychiatrist, saying how boring his life is as a worker, having issues with him being stuck in a set role, him being weaker than other worker ants. He's just asking, why is the world like this? I like Z questioning all the conformity, how ridiculous it can get. It goes as far as having a set time to dance, and everyone does this stupid marching in place. It's not a dance. And that's the point. The ants intentionally are demeaning themselves so that everyone works for the whole rather than for themselves. Yeah, on paper that sounds good, but sooner or later more and more ants would get burned out or bored, causing quality to slip, which is happening. When you put elements of nature into the framing of human lives, this is the type of issues that crop up. A small problem I have with Z, his personality felt more like it would fit in a teenager better than as an adult. I mean, the story does work kind of like a midlife crisis too, but bits of dialogue I think feel better if he was younger, but then you'd have to deal with the whole young person working in a job like this. They casted a lot of big name voices, even for the smallest of roles. At least the world's not black and white. Some ants love it the way it is, a little too much, while others you can see in their body movements that they really don't like this, or feel that something's off. The nuance does bring a problem with how the ants world is set up. They're put in two boxes, worker and soldier ant. The soldier is shown as the big, brawny warrior who's toughened up, follows orders. Wouldn't it be better to have them be the workers too? Stronger means faster in breaking a wall down. Armies aren't always in use, just rotate groups around. This leads into a big problem with the bad guy plot not making sense when you look at it past just like his goal. I'm spoiling the ending of the movie here. The soldier leader, General Mandible, considers the worker ants weak, devising a screwed up plan to kill everyone off and to start his own colony. And any who are loyal to the current queen, with the only exception being Princess Bala, because won't be able to rule over ants if you got no people. Here's the deal. They see the workers as weak / not worthy in their eyes. You kill them off, make a new colony. Now what? The queen makes new ants, you get the workers to work, they're still going to be weak. Is Mandible going to keep killing and resetting every generation? The problem is not the ants, it's the roles. Second option, just for argument's sake, the queen does not birth workers. That means the soldiers will have to be workers. Will they be considered the new weak? If not, why haven't they had the soldiers work on building the city too, or train the workers in a modified soldier program so they become stronger and more productive? These are all the issues that come up. 1, Mandible is a murderer. 2, Mandible is a complete moron. 3, nothing changes or a revolt happens when you label certain soldiers as the new workers. I think it would have worked out more better if Mandible was doing this for emotional reasons rather than a strategic purpose, if you can call genocide strategic. I buy it more. It's the same thing with the Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos. Oh, I'm gonna wipe out half the universe because it can't sustain itself. It's the main cause of all the wars and deaths, etc. I buy an emotional reason why he'd end at this conclusion, but the movie, for most of his characters, is all about him being prepared, calm, thinking about the enemy who will go after him, with very few times he goes all emotional. So the script makes his personality contrive to move the plot forward in set places. It's better to have the character first be broken by something so that I can buy villains doing this insanity over other better options. Gene Hackman plays the Mandible much like his other roles. A little bit of Lex Luthor, a little bit of Dr. Lawrence Myrick. Does a fine job, but doesn't push anything farther than that. After some big screw-up, Z got fed up and had the bright idea to switch places with a friend of his, Weaver. Z would serve as a soldier, while Weaver would serve as a worker. Hold on a minute, pump the brakes for a second here. Why isn't anyone questioning Weaver's size? If all the ants are picked for roles because of their body types, basically, how does this work? It'd be like if an 8-year-old was at a board meeting and not one person mentioning this. You want me to buy that this universe works and has these rules, but your rules are in the way for this part to work. Who in their right mind would ever believe Z is a soldier when you see all these people around him look like this? He'd be instantly called out. About the Weaver character, I think he's alright. He's really obsessed with fighting and war, plus boasts all over the place, but you can see he has respect for Z. So not everyone sees the workers as weak. They're close friends. Z, I think, also helps Weaver in places. He's so obsessed with the fighting, while Z, when he says all his nonsense and depressed nature, makes him think about other things. Their friendship is much like Mike and Sully from Monster Inc. Of course, our main character has bad timing because Mandible needs to get rid of any potential ants that could stop him, sends the troops to their deaths against termites. This war scene, especially Z's soldier friend, he's dying and is talking to him while decapitated. Yeah, this movie is so much like A Bug's Life. Z is the only one to survive just because he got covered by a dead termite. He didn't do anything heroic. So when he came back, he was hailed as a war hero, which set in motion Act 2 and the section that does get copied in another film. Mandible needs to get rid of Z or he could potentially destroy his plan. This is where Z gets the bright idea to pretend to kidnap the princess because he was being targeted as a war criminal. This blows up in his face. Princess Bala and him get thrown out of the colony, so they have no choice and head off to find Insectopia. Insectopia is like Atlantis for the ants, pure paradise of food and material to make homes. So now Z and Princess Bala go on a journey through the grass fields in search for this Insectopia. Princess Bala was kind of in the middle. She, of course, is expected to become queen and uphold all the laws and rules, but she doesn't like following many of them. She's similar to Z in this case, nowhere near depressing though. She's kind of a mix of Pocahontas and Mulan. At first, Bala really hates it. He took her. He's just a worker ant, so she doesn't want to be around him. But after several crazy near-death situations and a giant shoe, Z's dumb luck and Bala's knack at getting out of trouble starts to gel with each other. She stops seeing him as just a worker to the point of them starting to have feelings. Does this kind of sound familiar? I recall a talking donkey, a magic princess, and a Scottish ogre getting into a very similar plot. So if you want to complain about DreamWorks copying, look at Antz and Shrek, not A Bug's Life. I think Antz is a fun, cute little film, and it tries to balance both perspectives. Having set roles and only working for the colony are not just looked at as bad. The ending of the film totally uses this to save the day, and Z and the other characters were able to stop being stuck in that box. Everyone worked together to stop the bad guys and saved all the ants. So both sides got something out of it. Z himself, thanks to surviving the war by sheer luck, adventuring out of the anthill, meeting other bugs, and even hearing Bala's perspective, he built up his confidence, which saved everyone. In a way, I'm glad Antz got overlooked because it never got a sequel. Anything after this would just be forced. It could use some work here and there. I said there are a lot of small character bits here and there. Some could have been expanded. I would have liked to have seen more of Weaver's perspective while he took Z's place. But the key characters, Z, Bala, Mandible, and Weaver, were all still good. The movie still holds up today. It has the DreamWorks style, just like Pixar has its style. Technical wise, you can spot some issues, like there's a character in the bar scene drinking out of a bug, but there's no liquid. That whole nonsense with Antz versus Bugs Life was stupid. I think if DreamWorks wasn't so obsessed with one-upping Pixar, trying to beat Disney, and released Antz later because it was only 1 month before A Bug's Life came out, I think it would have done better. Shrek proved it does work. Give it a shot if you want to see a gritty family movie. It's one of DreamWorks' movies that usually gets buried in the list of 8 million Shrek and Madagascar movies out there. My favorite bit of all this was that the final shot of the movie, all of the survival, life, and death struggle was in a small corner of Central Park next to a leaking water fountain and a garbage bin. Thanks for checking out the review. Subscribe if you want to see more, and if you remember a movie or a show that's long been forgotten, good or bad, leave it as a suggestion below. I'm always on the lookout for obscured stuff.